The night on the dead moon was silent. No wind, no light. Only the soft hum of a broken ship sitting in a sea of dust. Inside that ship, a tired man worked alone. His name was Ethan Cole, a human engineer who had seen too many battles and too many empty stars. His ship, the Nomad, was old and damaged, just like him. He was fixing a cracked engine coil when something strange happened. Through the static of his radio came a sound. Not noise, not signal, but something soft. Almost like crying. At first he thought it was interference. But then he heard it again, a small, frightened voice whispering, "Help us!" Ethan froze. No one lived on this moon. No colonies, no ships, no life signs. He turned up the volume, his heart thumping in his chest. The voice came again, this time clearer. Two voices, both young, both scared. He looked out through the cracked window. The horizon was black, painted with shadows. The radio flickered and showed weak coordinates and about 2 kilometers away. He hesitated. Going out there could mean death. This moon had no atmosphere, no rescue, no reason for anyone to be here. But that voice, it didn't sound like a trick. It sounded real. Ethan put on his helmet and powered up his rover. The engines growled weakly as he drove across the rocky plain. Dust rose around him, shining faintly in the glow of his headlights. Every few seconds the signal pulsed in his radio. Soft cries, sometimes just static. The farther he went, the colder he felt. The moon seemed to swallow all sound, leaving only his breath echoing inside his helmet. When he reached the coordinates, there was nothing, just wreckage. A small alien escape pod, half buried in the ground, smoke still rising from it. Its metal looked organic, smooth like silver skin. Ethan stepped closer and opened the hatch. Inside, 2 small shapes huddled together, children but not human. Their skin shimmered faintly like moonlight, and their eyes glowed silver blue. They looked fragile, thin and scared. When Ethan knelt, they pressed closer to each other, trembling. "It's okay," he said softly through his suit speaker. "I'm not going to hurt you." One of them, a girl maybe 10 years old, and looked up. "Are you human?" she whispered, her voice weak. Ethan blinked. Hearing that word from her mouth hit him hard. "Yeah," he said slowly. "Ethan Cole, engineer, you're safe now." The boy beside her coughed, his breath shallow. Their suits were torn, oxygen leaking. Without thinking, Ethan lifted them out one by one and carried them to his rover. They were light as feathers. As he drove back, the girl opened her eyes again. "They'll find us," she murmured. "They'll hurt you too," Ethan frowned. "Who will find you?" But she didn't answer. Her eyes closed, and she went still. Back in the Nomad, Ethan laid them on 2 repair tables and connected his oxygen line to their broken masks. Slowly, their breathing steadied. He took off his helmet and looked at them closely. Their features were delicate, almost angelic. Small marks like stars shimmered on their skin. The ship's AI, a female voice named Nova, spoke through the speaker. "Ethan, these life forms are not registered in Galactic records." "Proceeding to scan?" "Do it," he said, leaning over them. After a moment, Nova replied, "Scan complete." "Unknown species. But genetic markers indicate royal Xanthari lineage." Ethan's eyes widened. He had heard of the Xanthari, an advanced race that ruled half the galaxy before vanishing in a civil war. If these kids were Xanthari, then someone powerful would be looking for them. "Nova," he said quietly, "run a deep scan for any nearby ships." Scanning. Detected. 2 galactic patrol units entering lunar orbit. Ethan's stomach dropped. "They tracked the distress signal," he muttered. He looked at the twins, because now he could tell they were twins, and cursed under his breath. Helping them meant breaking galactic law. Interfering with alien royalty without permission was a serious crime. He thought for a long moment. He could leave them here, pretend he never saw them. The law would forgive him, but his heart wouldn't. He looked at the boy whose hand was gripping his sister's tightly, even in sleep. He remembered his own little sister back on Earth who died years ago during the war. That memory burned in him like fire. "Nova," he said finally, "start the engines. We're leaving." "Ethan," Nova warned, "Galactic command forbids." "Override protocol," he snapped. "They're just kids." The ship roared to life. As the thrusters fired, the dust outside lifted into a glowing storm. Ethan looked through the viewport. 2 patrol ships were descending fast, their lights cutting through the darkness. Hang on, he muttered, gripping the controls. The Nomad lifted off, shaking violently. The alarm screamed as energy bolts exploded around them. Inside the cabin, the twins stirred, frightened, holding each other. Ethan pushed the throttle to maximum. The Nomad shot into the sky, weaving between the patrol fire. Nova's voice echoed urgently. Warning, you are now marked as a galactic fugitive. Ethan gritted his teeth. Yeah, he said, glancing at the sleeping twins. Guess I've been worse. Outside, the stars stretched into long silver lines as his ship jumped into hyperspace. For a moment, everything was silent again, except for the soft breathing of two alien children. Alive because one human refused to walk away, but far behind them. The patrol transmitted a report to Galactic Command. Target identified. Human male assisting Xanthari fugitives. Order issued, capture alive and or eliminate. And in that single message, Ethan's quiet life among the stars came to an end, and his destiny as the protector of the lost heirs had just begun. Silence filled the ship after the jump. The stars outside had become long trails of light, stretching across the black void. Inside the Nomad, everything was quiet except for the low hum of the engines, and the soft breathing of the two alien twins, sleeping under silver emergency blankets. Ethan Cole sat in the pilot seat, staring at the screen that now flashed in red. Galactic Command alert. Human vessel wanted for harboring royal fugitives. He leaned back, rubbing his tired face. Great, he muttered. Not even 10 minutes and I'm already the most wanted man in 3 sectors. The ship's AI, Nova, spoke calmly. Ethan, your actions violate 8 galactic laws and 2 military treaties. You are now officially a criminal. He gave a dry laugh. Yeah, well, tell that to the kids who'd be dead right now. Nova didn't reply. She never argued with his heart, and Ethan always followed that first. He turned and looked at the twins. The girl, Lyra, had faint silver patterns glowing on her cheeks, like tiny stars under her skin. Her brother Cairn looked a little older, maybe 12, and had his arm protectively wrapped around her even in sleep. Ethan wondered what they had seen. What kind of nightmare had forced them to escape into the dark? Suddenly, the ship jolted. Alarms flashed red. Nova, report! Ethan shouted. Unidentified pursuer detected, Nova replied. A single drone, model X-17, military class. Closing fast, Ethan cursed under his breath. They're already here. He pulled the control lever. The Nomad spun sharply, diving into a cloud of space debris. Metal chunks and asteroid fragments whirled around them like angry hornets. The drone followed, firing blue plasma shots that exploded around the ship. Ethan's hands moved fast, guiding the ship through narrow gaps. One wrong move and they'd be space dust. Inside the cabin, Lyra woke up frightened. What's happening?
Hold on tight, Ethan said, voice steady.
We've got company. The drone fired again, hitting one of the rear engines. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Nova's voice echoed through the cockpit. Engine damage detected. Power levels dropping. Ethan gritted his teeth. Come on, old girl, not now. He flipped the emergency stabilizers and slammed a button on the dashboard. A burst of heat filled the ship as the reactor roared back to life. The Nomad dove straight into a glowing plasma storm, a swirling field of charged energy that could fry any electronics. Nova's tone turned urgent. Ethan, entering plasma zone will destroy navigation systems. Better fried than dead, he snapped. The storm swallowed them whole. Light exploded around the cockpit, green, blue, and white, like thunder frozen in time. The drone followed, but within seconds its system sparked and died. It spun out of control and disappeared into the storm. Ethan's eyes narrowed. That's what you get for chasing me. But the victory didn't last long. The storm tore into the Nomad's hull, shaking it so hard that the lights flickered. When they finally broke through the storm, the ship drifted in silence, its engines weak, systems half dead. Ethan unbuckled and checked the twins. They were scared but alive. Lyra was trembling. We almost died, she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her, his voice calm and steady. Almost, but not today. Cairn looked at him curiously. Why did you help us? You know what happens to humans who touch Xanthari royalty. Ethan blinked. Royalty? Lyra looked down. Our parents were rulers of the Xanthari Dominion. The rebels destroyed our world. They said we were too young to lead, so they hunted us, her voice broke. We escaped in a pod. That's how you found us. Ethan stared at them. Royal heirs. He had just stolen the most wanted children in the galaxy. He stood up slowly. So that's why the patrols came so fast. Nova's voice interrupted. Confirmed. Galactic bounty posted. 10 million credits for capture of the Xanthari heirs. Additional 5 million for aiding them. Description matches your vessel. Ethan laughed bitterly. 15 million credits for my head. Guess I should feel flattered. But inside his mind was racing. He couldn't just leave them, not now. The moment he looked at those two faces, fear and hope mixed together, he knew he was already part of something bigger. Hours later, as he repaired the engines, something unexpected happened. Lyra walked up to him, holding a small piece of glowing crystal. You hurt your hand, she said softly, pointing to a burn from the plasma storm. It's fine, he said. But she reached out anyway and touched his skin. The crystal glowed brighter and suddenly the pain disappeared. The burn mark faded completely. Ethan stared at his hand. How did you? Lyra smiled weakly. It's part of our gift. My mother said it's called Lifelight. But using it makes us tired. He looked at her amazed. You two really are something else. Before he could say more, Nova's alarm beeped again. Ethan, Galactic Command has increased your bounty. You are now tagged as Priority 1, dangerous and armed. Ethan sighed. Guess they finally noticed I don't follow rules. He looked at the twins, both watching him silently. Don't worry, he said softly. You're safe with me. No one's taking you again. But far beyond the stars, a fleet of bounty hunters received the same message. Target confirmed. Human fugitive Ethan Cole harboring royal fugitives. Capture alive. 10 million credits. Dead. 5. And somewhere in that fleet, one hunter smiled and whispered, Looks like it's time to hunt a human. Days passed in silence. The Nomad drifted through the empty stars like a ghost. The engines hummed weakly, and the lights flickered every few hours. Ethan Cole sat by the control desk staring at the holographic map. Every route he checked, every jump point he calculated, and all of them were marked red. He was trapped. Nova, he said quietly. Any sign of the patrol? The AI's calm voice answered, negative. But long-range sensors show increased traffic in nearby systems. They are searching for you, Ethan sighed. Figures. I saved 2 kids and now the whole galaxy wants my head. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed. Lyra stood there holding a small metal cube glowing faintly with blue light. Ethan, she said in her gentle voice, we can't keep running forever. He turned to her, tired eyes meeting hers. Got a better idea? She looked at her brother Cairn, who sat quietly on the floor near the power core. There's a place, she whispered. A world the rebels don't go near. We can hide there while you fix your ship. Ethan frowned. Where? Cairn pressed a few buttons on the cube. A hologram appeared. A desert planet surrounded by rings of gold dust. Nara 7, he said. An old mining world, abandoned long ago. Ethan leaned closer. The name sounded familiar. You sure it's safe? It's not safe, Cairn said honestly, but it's forgotten. Ethan smiled faintly. Forgotten works for me. He entered the coordinates and started the jump drive. The stars blurred and the Nomad vanished into hyperspace. The ship landed on Nara 7 with a loud thud. The planet stretched endlessly in every direction. Golden sands, sharp rocks, and the skeletons of old machines sticking out like bones. The air shimmered with heat and the sky was a deep, endless orange. Ethan stepped outside, breathing through his filter mask. The ground cracked beneath his boots. Well, he muttered, it's not exactly paradise. The twins followed, holding hands. Lyra's silver hair glowed faintly in the sunlight. She looked around with wide eyes. It's quiet here, she said softly. Too quiet. They found an old mining station half buried in sand. Ethan worked fast, repairing the power cells and sealing the doors. For the first time in days, the Nomad had a place to rest, and so did they. That night, under the dim light of an oil lamp, Lyra finally spoke about their past. Our parents ruled the Xanthari Dominion, she said slowly. They wanted peace, but others wanted war and a power, so the council betrayed them. The rebels attacked our home. Father sent us away in a small pod before the palace fell. Ethan listened quietly. And this cube? He asked, nodding toward the glowing device in her hands. Cairn answered this time. It's called the heart key. It holds memories. And something else. He placed it on the floor, and the cube opened with a soft hum. A blue hologram filled the room, showing a grand city floating above clouds, towers of silver and gold and alien ships shining like stars. Ethan's eyes widened. Is that your home? Lyra nodded. It was. The hologram changed, showing fire and smoke. Ships falling. The city breaking apart. Ethan's stomach turned. Even through the projection, he could feel the pain in their memories. Lyra wiped her tears. They said we were just children, too small to matter. But my mother told me something before we escaped. Ethan leaned forward. What did she say? She said the heart key will find the one who can wake the crown. Ethan frowned. Wake the crown? What does that even mean? Cairn shrugged. We don't know. But when the cube glows like this, he touched it and it pulsed brighter. It means the crown is listening. Ethan looked down at it. And you think it's listening to me? Lyra gave a small smile. It started glowing the day you found us. For the first time, Ethan didn't have a smart answer. He just sat there staring at the cube, wondering why fate had thrown him into this storm. Outside, the night wind howled through the broken machines. The planet felt alive, like something ancient was watching. Then suddenly Nova's voice cut through the silence. Ethan, I've picked up movement. A ship just entered the atmosphere. Ethan jumped to his feet. What? Who? Unknown signature. Approaching fast. Cairn's face went pale. It's them. The bounty hunters. Ethan ran to the window. In the sky he saw 3 red lights descending like falling stars. His chest tightened. How did they find us? Lyra's voice trembled. The cube. It emits energy. If they tracked it, Ethan grabbed his blaster and shouted, Nova, lock down the doors. Now. The ground trembled as a small ship landed nearby, kicking up a cloud of dust. A tall figure stepped out, armored with glowing red eyes under a helmet. His voice echoed across the sand. Ethan Cole, he said coldly. You have something that doesn't belong to you. Ethan aimed his weapon, heart pounding. You'll have to be more specific. The bounty hunter laughed. The royal twins. And the cube. Hand them over and maybe I'll let you live. Ethan smirked. Maybe you should have brought more friends. The hunter raised his gun. I don't need friends to kill a human. Before he could shoot, the cube flared to life, shining like a tiny sun. Lyra gasped, covering her eyes. The light spread across the sand, forming strange symbols around them. The bounty hunter stepped back, confused. What is this? Ethan stared as the cube's voice, deep and ancient, echoed through the air. Protector recognized. The bond is awakened. The light wrapped around Ethan like a storm of fire and starlight. He felt a strange warmth in his chest and the bounty hunter's gun melted in his hands. Cairn whispered, eyes wide. It's him, the one Mother spoke of. Ethan turned, shocked. What the hell just happened? Lyra looked at him with tears in her glowing eyes. The heart key chose you. The wind screamed across the golden desert, carrying clouds of sand that burned like fire. The light from the glowing cube faded slowly, leaving behind silence and fear. Ethan Cole stood in front of the twins, his blaster shaking slightly in his hand. Across the dunes, the bounty hunter raised his arm, smoke rising from the weapon that had just melted into ash. The hunter's red eyes glared through his cracked visor. What did you do, human? He growled, his voice deep and cold. Ethan didn't answer. His hand still tingled with the strange warmth from the cube's light. It was as if something had flowed into him. Energy, or maybe purpose. Lyra and Cairn hid behind him, their eyes glowing faintly in the sandstorm. Ethan, Lyra whispered. He's not alone. From the horizon, shapes appeared. 4 more bounty hunters, all in black armor, walking in formation. Their boots crunched the sand in rhythm, slow and deadly. One carried a plasma blade. Another had a net gun glowing blue. Ethan clenched his jaw. Nova, he said into his comm, status of the ship? Nova's voice came back, crackling through static. The Nomad's engines are down. Shields offline. I can activate the defense drone, but only for 5 minutes. Do it, Ethan ordered. And send the kids a signal when to run. Lyra shook her head. We won't leave you. Ethan turned, giving her a half smile. Not forever. Just until I clean up this mess. The twins looked at each other, scared but trusting. The bounty hunters closed in. Their leader raised his hand. Ethan Cole, he called out. You have one chance. Give us the heirs and the heart key and I'll make your death quick. Ethan laughed dryly. Quick, sorry, I'm kind of attached to being alive. The leader's red visor flashed. So be it. They opened fire. Blinding blue shots cut through the sand. Ethan dived behind a rock, pulling the trigger on his blaster. He hit one hunter square in the chest. Sparks flew, armor cracked, and the body hit the sand hard. Drones online, Nova announced. A small metallic sphere shot out from the Nomad, hovering in the air. It unleashed a burst of red lasers, striking the attackers with precision. 2 went down immediately, their weapons shattering, but the leader was fast. He rolled aside, fired a pulse round, and the drone exploded in a flash of fire. Ethan cursed, sand whipping his face. That was my favorite drone. The leader aimed again, but suddenly the ground under his feet glowed. Strange symbols, the same ones that had appeared when the heart key had chosen Ethan. The light pulsed once, and the bounty hunter was thrown backward as if hit by an invisible wave. Ethan stared at his own hand. It was glowing faintly. What the? Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. It's reacting to you. The heart key is protecting its chosen one. Could have told me that earlier, Ethan shouted, ducking behind another rock as plasma bolts exploded nearby. Cairn stepped forward, holding his palm up. His eyes blazed silver. The air shimmered and a wave of energy rippled out. A shield of light formed around them. The shots from the hunters bounced off like pebbles hitting glass. Ethan looked at him in shock. Kid, you could have done that this whole time. Cairn smirked faintly. It takes focus. Well, focus harder. The hunters regrouped. Their leader roared and charged straight into the shield, sword glowing red hot. The light barrier cracked. Lyra screamed as the energy began to fade. Ethan sprang forward, meeting the charge head-on. His blaster was empty, so he swung it like a club. The 2 crashed together, rolling in the sand. The hunter was stronger, but Ethan was faster. He dodged a strike and punched the man's helmet, cracking the visor open. A pale, scarred alien face stared back at him. You fight like a soldier, the hunter hissed. Used to be one, Ethan said, spitting sand. Now I just fix things. He drove his knee into the alien's chest, grabbed the fallen plasma sword, and swung. The blade hissed as it cut through the sand, missing by inches. The hunter kicked him away, raising his weapon again, but this time Lyra raised her hands. Stop, she shouted. Her eyes blazed like twin stars. The sand around them rose into the air, spinning faster and faster. A storm formed, a golden hurricane swirling between them. The hunter struggled to move, but the storm's force pinned him to the ground. Ethan covered his face. Lyra, you'll drain yourself. She gritted her teeth. I won't let him hurt you. With one final cry, the light exploded outward. The hunters were thrown across the dunes. When the dust settled, they were gone, some unconscious, others fleeing into the horizon. Ethan ran to Lyra as she collapsed, her small body trembling. He caught her before she hit the ground. Hey, easy. You're okay. Her eyes fluttered open. Did we win? Ethan looked around at the burning sand, the broken armor, the quiet sky. Yeah, he said softly. We did. Cairn helped him carry her back to the ship. As the Nomad's doors closed behind them, Nova's voice filled the cabin. Ethan, enemy signals retreating. You are clear for now. He laid Lyra gently on a bed, adjusting her blanket. For a moment he just sat there, breathing heavily. His hand still glowed faintly with light that wasn't his. He looked at Cairn. She's stronger than she looks. Cairn nodded. She takes after our mother. Ethan leaned back in his chair. You kids, you've got more secrets than a government file. Cairn hesitated. Then he said quietly, Ethan, the heart key doesn't just choose anyone. It chooses those who can carry the will of kings. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? Before Cairn could answer, Nova interrupted. Incoming transmission. Galactic frequencies picking up word of your survival. The bounty just doubled. Ethan groaned. Wonderful. He looked at the sleeping Lyra, then back at the stars outside. Somewhere deep inside him, something whispered. A voice that wasn't his. Protect them, lead them. Your fate is no longer your own. Ethan clenched his fists. If that's how it's going to be, he muttered. Then the galaxy's in for a fight. Outside, the twin suns of Nara 7 began to rise, painting the desert blood red. The war for the lost heirs had just begun, and a lone human stood at the heart of it. The desert winds of Nara 7 had gone quiet. Only the crackling sound of the campfire broke the stillness. Ethan sat near the flames, his hands wrapped around a metal cup of recycled water. He looked across the small fire. Lyra slept peacefully, her silver hair glowing faintly in the night, while Cairn sat awake, watching the stars. "You should get some rest," Ethan said softly. Cairn shook his head. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. The ones who destroyed our world." Ethan looked up at the sky. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Nightmares have long memories." For a while, they both sat in silence. The stars above shimmered like scattered jewels, endless, beautiful, and cold. Then Cairn spoke again, his voice low but steady. "There's something I didn't tell you," he said. "Something about the heart key." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Another secret?" Cairn didn't smile. He held out the cube, now dim, resting in his palm. "This isn't just a memory device. It's a compass. It's leading us somewhere." Ethan frowned. "Where?" Cairn looked at him, eyes glowing faintly. "Home." The word hung in the air. Ethan blinked. "Home? You mean the planet Varexis," Cairn said. "The cradle of our kind. The forbidden planet." Ethan remembered the name from an old war map. A world marked as dead, its atmosphere poisoned and its cities turned to dust. "That place is suicide," he said. "No one goes there." Cairn's voice was calm. "That's why we must." Ethan stared at the boy, half amazed, half terrified. "Kid, you're serious?" "Yes," Cairn said. "Because something there is still alive. The heart key has been calling to it, and it's calling to you too." The next morning, the Nomad lifted off the sand, leaving the ruins of Nara 7 behind. Ethan set the coordinates for Varexis, though every part of him screamed not to. As the ship jumped into hyperspace, he looked over at Lyra and Cairn sitting side by side. "You sure about this?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "The key wants to go home. And maybe it will tell us how to fix what's broken." Ethan sighed. "All right, kids. But if we see anything glowing green, screaming, or trying to eat us, we're leaving." Lyra giggled softly. "Deal." When they dropped out of hyperspace, the sight before them stole their breath. Varexis wasn't a planet, it was a graveyard. Massive cities floated in the air, shattered and frozen in time. Rings of broken ships orbited the surface like silent ghosts. The planet's surface glowed faintly, a mix of red and gold like dying embers under glass. Ethan whispered, "By the stars." Nova's voice came through the comms. "Radiation levels stable, but the planet's core, still active. Energy readings are off the scale." Cairn's eyes widened. "That's it. The crown energy, it's still there." Ethan frowned. "The crown?" Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling. "The crown of the Zenthari. It's not a jewel or metal. It's an ancient system. The AI that ruled our empire. It judges who's worthy to lead." Ethan let out a low whistle. "And let me guess, it doesn't like humans much." "Humans were never meant to reach it," Cairn said. "But the heart key disagrees." They landed near the ruins of a massive palace. Its walls were carved with strange patterns, glowing faintly under the dim sky. The moment they stepped out, the heart key started to hum, its light flickering like a heartbeat. "Nova," Ethan said, "keep the engines warm. If this place starts talking, we're leaving." "Understood," Nova replied. Inside the ruins, time itself seemed frozen. Dust floated like mist. Ancient banners hung torn from the ceiling. Every step echoed like thunder in the silence. Lyra stopped suddenly. "Ethan," she whispered. "Look." At the far end of the hall stood a circular door, tall, covered in symbols that pulsed faintly as they approached. The cube in Cairn's hands glowed brighter and brighter until it floated on its own, spinning in the air. The symbols responded, lighting up in waves. Ethan stepped back. "What's it doing?" Cairn's voice was shaking. "It's unlocking the crown chamber." The door opened slowly with a deep echoing sound. Inside was a vast room filled with golden light and floating crystals. At the center stood a massive sphere. The crown AI, silent but alive, its surface rippling like liquid metal. The heart key floated forward and merged with the sphere. The entire room lit up as the AI's voice filled the air, deep, ancient, and calm. Identity scan. Incomplete. Zenthari heirs detected foreign genetic code. Human, Ethan stiffened. That'd be me, I guess. Foreign entity. Analyzing. The floor trembled. A bright beam scanned Ethan from head to toe. He could feel the air grow heavy like being watched by something divine. Lyra grabbed his hand. "Ethan, don't move." Result, compatible. The AI's voice changed tone, almost curious. Human, you carry the courage of 1,000 battles. The will of the protector. The key has chosen wisely, Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? The crown responds only to the worthy, and it has responded. To you. The light intensified. The floating crystals aligned above him, forming a circle. A symbol, the royal crest of Zenthari, appeared on Ethan's chest, glowing faintly through his shirt. Lyra gasped. Ethan, the crown accepted you. Ethan stepped back. Wait, no. I'm just an engineer. But the AI ignored him. By law of the ancient bond, the protector shall share the throne with the heirs. Humanity and Zenthari shall unite once more. Karen's eyes widened. That's impossible. Ethan looked down at his hands, still glowing with faint energy. You've got to be kidding me. Me, a king. The AI's voice echoed one final time. Prepare, chosen one. The galaxy will know your name and fear it. The light faded. Silence returned. Ethan stood frozen, heart pounding, staring at the ancient throne that had just chosen a human. Nova's voice broke the moment. Ethan, incoming fleet detected. Multiple ships entering orbit. Lyra's face went pale. The rebels. They found us. Ethan clenched his fists, staring up at the ceiling as the planet rumbled beneath their feet. Then I guess, he said quietly, it's time for this human king to earn his crown. The sky above Virexis burned red. From orbit, fleets of warships descended like thunderclouds, their engines howling through the atmosphere. The once silent ruins of the Zenthari homeworld came alive again, not with peace but with the promise of war. Inside the ancient palace, Ethan Cole stood in the golden light of the crown chamber. Dust swirled around him as the twins, Lyra and Karen, watched with wide, frightened eyes. The symbol of the Zenthari crest still glowed faintly on his chest, a mark he neither wanted nor understood. Nova's voice broke through the tension. Ethan, enemy ships have entered the upper atmosphere. 37 in total. They are preparing to deploy ground forces. Ethan exhaled slowly. 37 ships, and we have one half-broken freighter. Technically, Nova replied dryly. It's a miracle it still flies. Ethan smirked. Yeah, you've mentioned that before. He turned to the twins. You two need to stay underground. If they take me, fine. But they can't take you. Lyra shook her head. No, you're the chosen one. The crown called you. You can't just... I'm not a king, Ethan said sharply. I'm just a man who made a stupid promise to keep you alive. Karen stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Maybe that's what makes you worthy. You don't want power, you protect it. Ethan froze at those words. There was something in Karen's tone, something that reminded him of every commander he'd ever respected. He looked at the boy, then at Lyra. All right, he said finally. If I'm stuck being part of this story, let's make it a good one. Outside, the air shimmered as drop pods rained from the sky. Rebel soldiers in black armor stormed the ruins, their weapons humming with energy. The old halls of the palace echoed with metallic footsteps and distant gunfire. Ethan and Karen worked fast, setting up defense grids and old plasma cannons they had found buried beneath the ruins. Nova projected a tactical map across the air. Enemy forces, 200 infantry, 5 mechs, and 1 command ship in low orbit, she reported. Perfect, Ethan said. We'll hit them where it hurts, their confidence. He began giving orders like a soldier again, his instincts snapping back to life. Karen, charge the perimeter with that Zenthari power core. Lyra, take control of the shield systems and focus on energy flow. Nova, get me visuals on all entry points. The kids moved without hesitation. Ethan couldn't help but notice where they trusted him completely. Minutes later, the first wave of rebels entered the courtyard. Plasma bolts lit up the sky. Ethan fired from the balcony, his shots precise and fast. The old cannons roared to life, tearing through the attackers. Nice shooting, Nova commented. I've had practice, Ethan said grimly. The rebels regrouped and sent forward a war mech, a massive, spider-like machine that crushed stone pillars under its legs. It fired a barrage of plasma at the palace wall, shaking the ground. Ethan ducked behind cover. Nova, tell me you've got a plan. Working on it, she replied. However, it involves not dying. Sounds great, let's do that. He looked at Karen, who stood beside the palace gate, hands glowing with silver light. Kid, now would be a great time for a miracle. Karen nodded and raised both arms. The ground beneath the mech cracked. A surge of ancient power burst upward, throwing the machine off balance. Ethan seized the moment, ran forward, and fired a plasma grenade straight into the mech's core. The explosion lit up the night. The mech collapsed, burning. The rebels hesitated. Their leader, a tall alien with sharp, glassy armor, stepped forward. His voice boomed through the air. "Ethan Cole, you think you can claim the throne of Zenthari? You're nothing but a human mistake." Ethan reloaded his weapon, eyes hard. Maybe, but mistakes built the stars. He fired again, leading the counterattack. Lyra joined the fight, channeling beams of light from her hands, forming shields that protected Ethan from incoming fire. Her energy merged with his, the heart key pulsing between them, sinking their strength. The palace became a storm of light and fire. Ethan fought like he was born for this, quick, smart, relentless. Every move, every shot, every breath was for one purpose: to protect. At the height of battle, a deep voice filled the air. The Crown AI awake once more. The Protector rises. The heirs stand beside him. The Empire remembers its heart. Golden light surged through the ruins, spreading across the battlefield. The rebels froze as old Zenthari war machines rose from the sand, ancient guardians reactivated by the Crown's will. Ethan stared in awe as giant constructs of light and metal marched forward, crushing enemy lines. Lyra's energy pulsed through them like blood through veins. Cairn's voice trembled. "It's happening. The Empire is returning," the rebel leader shouted desperately. "Destroy the human. The Crown must not bind with him." But it was too late. The heart key in Lyra's hands flared brighter than ever. A beam of light connected her, Cairn, and Ethan, forming a glowing triangle that spread energy across the battlefield. The sky turned white and every rebel ship in orbit powered down instantly. When the light faded, silence fell. The rebels dropped their weapons and fell to their knees. Ethan lowered his blaster, breathing hard. His hands still glowed faintly, trembling from exhaustion. Lyra ran to him, hugging him tightly. "You did it," she cried. "You saved us." Ethan shook his head. "We saved each other." From above, the Crown AI's voice echoed through the world. "The Empire has a protector once more. The human heart has awakened the throne." Ethan looked up at the glowing sky, half in disbelief, half in awe. Nova spoke softly through the comms. "Congratulations, Your Majesty." Ethan sighed, a tired smile tugging at his lips. "Let's not start that, Nova." But deep inside he knew the truth. Something ancient had changed. The galaxy would no longer see humans as small, because one man, one stubborn, reckless human, had done what no alien power could. He brought a dead empire back to life. The sun rose over Verexis for the first time in centuries. Golden light spilled across the shattered towers and silent cities, painting life back into stone. Where smoke and death had ruled, now there was calm, a fragile, trembling peace. Inside the palace, Ethan Cole sat quietly on the edge of the royal platform. His armor was scorched, his hands bandaged, and his face marked with dust and tiredness. He stared at the rising light and whispered, "We actually did it." Behind him, the twins, Lyra and Cairn, approached. Their eyes still glowed faintly. But now there was hope in them, not fear. Lyra smiled shyly. "The planet. It's healing," she said. "The Crown says the core is alive again." Ethan chuckled softly. "Guess even dead worlds just need someone stubborn enough to believe in them." Cairn looked at him seriously. "You did more than believe. You fought for us when no one else would."
The galaxy called you a criminal.
"But we call you savior." Ethan waved it off. "Nah, I'm just a mechanic who got lost and made a mess." But the Crown AI's voice filled the hall. Deep, resonant, unignorable. "False modesty detected." Ethan rolled his eyes. "Great, now even the royal AI's got jokes. You are not a mistake. Ethan Cole, you are proof that courage is not born from blood or code. It is born from choice." The air shimmered, and beams of light descended from the ceiling. The palace began to hum as ancient machines came to life. Columns of energy formed a circular chamber around Ethan and the twins. Lyra gasped. "The coronation chamber. It's awakening." Ethan stood slowly. "Hold on, coronation? Let's not get crazy here." But the Crown ignored him. "By will of the heart key, by bond of protection, and by right of courage, the heirs of Zenthari and their chosen protector shall rise as one." A pulse of golden light spread through the air. Lyra and Cairn stepped forward, taking Ethan's hands. The energy connected them, a single glowing thread between 3 lives. Ethan's heart pounded. He wanted to pull away, to say he wasn't worthy, but he couldn't. The light was warm, not burning. It felt like trust. "Kneel, Ethan Cole," the crown said, "for the galaxy has known kings by birth. Today it shall know one by heart." Ethan hesitated and then dropped to one knee. The chamber blazed with light. The air trembled. Every city on Varexis flickered to life. Every surviving ship lifted its head toward the palace and across the stars. Long dormant satellites broadcast a single message across all frequencies. The Empire of Xanthari is reborn. The human king has risen. In the throne hall, silence returned. The glow faded, leaving Ethan standing there in armor that shimmered faintly with Xanthari gold. A thin crown of light rested on his head, not heavy but alive. He looked down at his hands, half in disbelief. "I don't even like crowns," he murmured. Lyra laughed through her tears. "You don't need to like it. You earned it," Cairn added softly. "Our people needed a king who remembers what it means to care. You remind them." Ethan's throat tightened. "Kid, I'm no ruler." "Maybe not," Cairn said, "but you are human, and that's enough." Outside, the surviving citizens of Varexis, refugees, rebels, soldiers, gathered at the palace steps. They looked up as Ethan appeared on the balcony between the twins. The crowd fell silent. Ethan wasn't dressed like a king. His clothes were torn, his hands were dirty, and his voice cracked when he spoke. But every word came from somewhere real. "I'm no hero," he began. "I didn't come here to rule anyone. I came here because 2 scared kids needed help. And somehow that turned into this." He paused, scanning the alien faces below him. "You've seen empires fall. You've seen leaders lie. But maybe it's time for something new, not power, not control, but hope. Because if a human like me can stand here, then maybe the galaxy isn't so broken after all." The crowd erupted in a chorus of strange melodic cries, the Xanthari call of allegiance. The sound echoed through the skies like thunder. Lyra looked up at him, tears shining in her silver eyes. "They believe in you now." Ethan smiled faintly. "Let's just hope I don't let them down." That night he stood alone on the balcony again. The stars above seemed closer now, brighter. Nova's voice broke the silence. "Ethan, you understand this means you can't go back to Earth." "I know," he said quietly, "but maybe Earth doesn't need me anymore." He looked at the twin moons rising over the reborn world. "Funny," he whispered. "I spent my life fixing broken machines. Guess I finally fixed something that mattered." Nova paused. "Permission to record that as your royal motto?" Ethan laughed softly. "Sure, why not?" Behind him, Lyra and Cairn walked in, smiling. "Come on," Lyra said. "The people want to see their king." He turned, shaking his head. "I'm not their king," Cairn grinned. "Maybe not by blood, but by heart." Ethan sighed with a smile. "Guess that's the only kind of king I'd ever want to be." He followed them back inside, the palace doors closing slowly behind him. And as the night sky shimmered with golden light, the legend of Ethan Cole, the human king of Xanthari, began to spread across the stars. He had returned the lost alien twins, but he never expected to become their king.